What's up, guys? PDC here, and we are back with part 6 after almost over 2 week hiatus, basically, with our complete competitive battling guide series. This video probably will not be that long. I have this all scheduled out. This was the video that was intentionally going to be made 6th, and it is the ladder, and covering how to succeed on the ladder and what the ladder even is as a competitive medium. And it's something which you can do to get better. I'll be teaching you how to succeed on the ladder. I'll be teaching you what types of teams work, although that's pretty obvious if you know who's at the top of the ladder. I'll be teaching you, the purpose of it and how you can use it to the fullest. Because the ladder is the stepping stone, or at least it was a stepping stone for a lot of people to get into tournaments. So, first of all, the ladder is accessible. And that's what's good about it. You do not need to wait. You can get a game anytime, whenever you want. And you can essentially control the skill level, or a rough control the skill level, by winning more games and getting higher on a ladder. That's how you get tougher opponents. So the ladder as a medium of something that you use in order to get better it's probably the best pure practice mechanism there is. Now on the ladder, there's a very, at least for me comparatively, when you lose a game in a ladder, even if you're like even if it's for the number one spot, it's a very low risk thing. But for some of you guys who don't really play tournaments, it may not feel that way. It may feel completely differently. Like this is the pinnacle of competitiveness. And I will say that that's not true. There are higher stakes, but the ladder is something which is good to practice with, because for someone who is incredibly new, it might be beneficial to practice games in the ladder at a high level just to quell nerves, because the ladder will be the introduction to most people playing. People usually don't go straight up on Smogon and play tournaments. They usually play the ladder first because people feel that Smogon is exclusive. And with tournaments, while anyone can join them, not anyone can do well in them. And if you feel like you're just going to get crushed, you might want to practice first on something like the ladder first. And that's really important to have that accessibility portal. So because anyone can play it, the ladder, generally speaking, at all levels, is lesser skilled in tournaments. Not to insult people who do well on the ladder, but those who are number one would probably flounder in tournaments because either A, they don't play them, or B, they just don't have the skill cap. I am probably better than every person on the ladder. That's just the truth of it. And so are most other players who are even remotely near my skill level in competitive battling on Smogon. We could go mindless numb and we could make top 10 on the ladder, most of us. I mean, of course, I would probably resort to stall, but the ladder is a lot easier. And that is why you should use the ladder mainly for familiarization with the metagame and just for general practice. There's only so much you can really work on the ladder with team building, because team building varies in tournaments, and even prediction, the risk versus reward and general skill level and understanding of the game that some of these people have is incredibly low. Versus a lot of people that are high on the ladder, you may never need to make a play, because these people will just never ever understand how long term a game plan can be. Most of these people play within the next 2 or 3 turns. They don't understand what they need to do to win, and a lot of their plays they make will be impulsive and not indicative of a higher thinking or understanding of the game. And that's fine, because I don't expect you to have some sort of grand knowledge about how to play Pokemon if you only play the ladder. That's not to be anything ashamed of, because when you play the ladder, it is purely for familiarization and practice and sequencing. Getting to know how to play this game. And when I say getting to know how, I mean knowing how to do damage calcs, how to attack certain matchups. It's an endless feed of practice. And while you can only get so good with this endless feed of practice, you can develop a baseline skill which allows you to transition to tournaments. My best example for this would probably be in like Smash, where you could just play level 9 bots all day. You will never be able to win a tournament by just playing bots. But by playing the bots, you can polish your skills. You can polish how to do those short hop up airs. You can polish how to do those grab combos. That is what the ladder is about. The ladder is about training yourself in the most basic movements and becoming better that way and through it. The ladder is not the end. The ladder is the beginning, and people need to understand that. How to succeed on the ladder is a hard thing, because you need to put in a lot of time to get number one. and you need to be consistent. There's decay, there's a lot of people gunning for you at any time, there are no barriers. Doing well on the ladder comes down to time management and team selection. And if you just want to do well on the ladder for the sake of doing well on the ladder, just use stall, because stall is hard for people to break when they're playing on a ladder, because as I said, most people who play on the ladder don't really have the ability to formulate long-term game plans. They make a prediction, but they make a prediction which really doesn't do anything, or it only serves a short-term goal. That is what I mean when I say that people on the ladder, generally speaking, don't understand how to beat really defensive teams. Defense is always going to do better on the ladder than offense. Occasionally, you'll lose. Yeah, of course you'll get a bad matchup, or maybe you'll get someone who actually does know how to form a game plan. But most of the time, people will be unable to say, 20, 30 turns down the road think, well, if he pursues my defogger here, what is going to happen to my team? They're not, either they don't care enough, or they just are unable to see it or see the consequence of what would happen if they let an instrumental member of their team die to a pursuit or, any move early. And in that way, the ladder is really only good for testing and constant practice feeds. I said this again, but I'll say it, I said this before, but I'll say it again. The ladder's purpose is to practice. It is to get yourself familiarized with how to play the game. And in the case of running defense all the time, honestly, I encourage you to try and use every single bit, every single style on the ladder, so you can at least have a basic understanding of how to play these matchups. When you're playing ladder games, you have to actively think. Think about the opponent. Use these endless feeds of practice to analyze how you play and how your opponent plays in a low-pressure situation. Every part of the guide leads up to this, because with this endless feed of practice, where there is really no true consequence, you can play on an alt, you can do whatever, you can be completely anonymous, you can mess around with team builds, you can mess around with prediction, you can mess around with game plans, and that's really what the ladder is about. So this video is not trying to say this is how you get number one, because getting number one in itself, while it is an accomplishment, I'm not going to knock you for getting top 10 or number one. More often than not, getting number one on the ladder is a stepping stone into tournaments, or it can be, because it shows that you've mastered the basic skills of this game, and that now that you've reached this point, you can go to a point, you can go and play people who have already done that, who are higher skill level than you, understand the game better, and generally are better than you. That's just it. Because the ladder has a limited skill level. Most top players do not have the time to grind out the top 10 or stay there for very long periods of time. At least on the OU ladder. The old gen ladders are a different story. You'll see a lot of at least decent tournament players on these because they're very small and it doesn't take long to grind out. But for the case of the OU ladder, it's high maintenance. And that's why I suggest that after you do it once or twice, don't have your only goal in competitive Pokemon be, if you want to really be the best, don't have it just be peak the ladder. Because there's so much more. And being able to peak, it's an indicator of skill, but it doesn't mean much. Play people who are better than you. Play people who have a skill set that is different than you. Play people who understand the game better than you, and you will eventually prosper as a player. Now, this is rather self-explanatory. It truly is. But I feel like a lot of people miss it because they view the ladder as an end game rather than a stepping stone. And what I am trying to say is that the ladder is not an end game. The ladder is a stepping stone to something that is much greater, and that is tournaments. Playing people for high stakes, playing people for pride, playing people who understand the game to roughly the same level that you do. And that's how you improve. The ladder is a practice mechanism. It gives you a feed of bots to help you hone your skills. But you cannot reach the highest level of play by just playing on a ladder. And that's something you'll probably have to learn for yourself. Because while you may see many YouTubers, constantly play on the ladder, that's, you'll see people like Blunder and Joey uploading tournament games. The tournament games is really where their show of skill and their validation as a player comes from. It's not the ladder. They fool around on the ladder. But the tournaments is where they understand where they get their skill from. This video is not as much of, a real concrete philosophy guide. But if you can go on the ladder and apply the concepts of team preview, game planning, prediction, team building, and everything in between, risk versus reward, and at least have an understanding of the function they play in competitive Pokemon, when you do go to tournaments and transition, you will have a better chance. Because if you're just playing the ladder to play, then you're not really getting the full picture here. Play the ladder to get to somewhere else. And that's my piece on it. So thank you guys for watching. Quick vid, pretty self-explanatory. Just use the ladder for practice. And even when you transition to tournaments, use the ladder for practice as well. Because there's never going to be a mechanism outside of just challenging your friends where you can get free practice like this at a constant rate. So use it. It is good for a lot of things and will be useful throughout your career. And that's it, guys. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.